Hello, and welcome to the Rules of Acquisition Remix. I'm your host, 1/3 of the Kickers of Elves, Hugh Crawford. You can find me on Instagram at HughBot_Crawford. Today we are going to be listening to Paradise, which was originally released October 3rd, 2016. I hope you enjoy this episode. Stick around after to hear some notes and updated information. All right, thanks.
What we've got here is failure to communicate. Oh yeah, some men you just can't reach, so you get what we had here last week. Oh yeah. Which is the way he wants it, well he gets it. Oh yeah. It's time for Cool Hand Sisko, he's a natural born world shaker.
Hello and welcome to the Rules of Acquisition podcast, where we will be talking about every single episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, the greatest television show that basically has moved up one step from space hippies, and now they're still space hippies, but they're not in hippie garb, I guess. I don't know. Is that accurate enough?
This episode was definitely about crazy space cults, I think.
Yeah, space cults. It's
about Space Amish. The Space Amish.
Luddites? Space Luddites?
We'll get into it. Whatever my rambling was, this is the Rules of Acquisition. I am Wade Bowen. With me, as always, is James Nolan.
Hello.
And Hugh Crawford.
Hey, gentlemen.
And I already said my name, changing it up a little bit. So let's just get into it. We're talking about, what is this, like the 15th episode of Season 2?
Yep, we're on Season 2, Episode 15. The name of this episode is Paradise. It originally aired February 13th, 1994. The IMDb description is as follows. Sisko and Chief O'Brien discover a colony which lives without technology. That's it. It's just one sentence. And that pretty much sums up what's going on here. All right, guys. Starts off with O'Brien and Sisko in a runabout. And quickly, do you guys know which runabout is up there? Is it the Rio Grande? What is the one that...
This is the Rio Grande, right?
I think it's the Rio
Grande. But I think they're chilling in the Rio Grande. And they're talking about Jake needing to bone up on his Starfleet stuff.
Oh yeah, he's a C minus student basically.
Right. And when it comes to like working with your hands, a kid who grew up in space is really bad with his hands. So go figure, right?
Or his standardized testing, he's in the lower third TAC.
Yes. And that's when we find out.
Oh wow, I guess that ties into the overarching philosophy of the society.
What do you mean?
Is that people have lost the ability to work with their hands, and so they don't have aptitude.
Well, that's what I was...
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Oh, I didn't even put that together.
That's how I took it whenever he said, he's not very good with his hands and working, and I was like, well, nothing moves. There's no working parts.
Yeah.
You just hit a glow stick on a panel, and that's how you fix stuff.
Right. Well, I just got excited about the O'Brien backstory info we got with that whole talk, because he's like, I was a bad student too. I didn't know shit about engineering until I was like in the shit.
Yes.
And had 10 minutes to get out and had to put together a transporter.
Yeah.
In 10 minutes.
And that's my favorite, right. And then Sisko rolls his eyes and goes, oh, do tell me. Remind me again, what were you? Oh, you were in the shit, huh? Oh, okay. Yeah. Another excuse to talk about being in the shit.
Always talking about being in the shit.
Yeah, 10 minutes to get out before the Cardis came and got everybody. And he saved the whole platoon in 9 minutes and 53 seconds. He had to MacGyver some shit together, and he got out. And it's like, oh, that's yeah. And it also sets up for this episode that O'Brien is a Jason Bourne badass.
Right.
Yes, he does. He does some. He jumps some sort of like you get to see a little bit of O'Brien action.
He pulls a Rambo. He gets first blood. Yeah.
I tell you what, it is.
And then he made it up to. Then he was the tactical officer on the Rutledge after they found out he was really good with his hands.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's a weird way to shoehorn in O'Brien's career path, but they did it nevertheless.
Yeah.
It continues season 2 being an O'Brien heavy season.
Yeah. I thought it was great.
Yeah, that and sort of a retcon of his past, because I don't think you ever got that.
What past?
Well, I think that he wasn't just the guy on the Enterprise, that he was, we've recently got that he was in the shit, that he recently got that how he was sort of promoted up.
Yeah.
So you get a little bit of change of that. And it is actually a retcon because he says that's when I got my yellow suit.
Oh, yeah.
But at the beginning of Enterprise, he is wearing a red suit through the first season.
Oh, he was a red suit?
So,
well,
continuity error.
Yeah, that's right, because engineering is usually, used to be a red, in the original series, red suit shirts, Scotty wore a red shirt all the time.
But yellow.
So that was engineer.
Yeah, but they changed that from the first to second Star Trek.
Right. And then when he was in the transport room, he was a red shirt?
Yeah, yes. In the first season. Then they moved him to a yellow shirt later. They'll have to fix it all in Crisis of Infinite Enterprises. They'll fix all of this then, so.
Right. That's in the new, what universe is that going to erase? The Kelvin?
Star Trek Rebirth, I think.
Okay. He could wear more than one shirt. He could have gotten a red shirt for a little bit in the Enterprise and when he was on the Rutledge, he had a yellow shirt. I guess.
Yeah, I'm sure it was laundry day in that episode of Next Generation. And that's why you see him in red. Easy.
Right.
Yes.
Fix. Boom.
And he does talk about being at war with the Cardis. Maybe he called them spoonheads or another slur or just Cardassians in the Next Generation.
Yeah.
I think we talked about in the past about how Ensign Rowe comes up.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, so I think you're right there.
But yeah, they do retcon a little bit that they do kind of think, they mentioned that he was in the Cardassian front, but also he's just a boring guy pushing a transporter buttons for 5-6 years of Next Generation.
All right. So, we haven't really talked about it. Do we like this episode?
Oh, I like this. It's just an episode. I like.
Man.
I like this episode.
Okay.
It's an episode about ideas, at least, and it's in some ways I'll talk about later. It's an archetypical. It's a certain kind of Star Trek story,
exactly,
that they tell over and over again.
Yes.
Yeah. So, what about you? Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I feel like there's a couple traditions going on here. One, it's you land on a planet and it's these people have a way of life. And who are you, Federation people, to tell us how we live is wrong? It's that episode, but it's also a captain episode, and I know or commander episode. Good grief! I can't believe I still have to do that. Correct myself.
I know. When are they just going to make him a captain already? Right.
Right. This is in the tradition of captains showing their resolve and having their mettle tested.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that later. They have a certain way of doing it.
This is like Picard's How Many Lights?
Yeah, they're all 4 lights.
Right. This is Sisko's lights episode, except it's his uniform instead of the lights.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Right. And then when they first land before the first credits break, they land and they get an arrow pointed at, for a second, the first time I was watching this, I was like, oh shit. Are they doing a fucking Robin Hood episode?
That's exactly what I thought.
Oh man.
I have to say, I kind of loved this. I kind of loved this episode.
I think I did too.
Up until, I think it's flawed. I think it has a couple of key flaws. But I largely, scene by scene, was pretty riveted by it.
I liked it a lot too, yeah. And part of what we do is we talk about what we want to fix, and I have issues.
Yeah, it's not perfect at all, and it's got one, I think, glaring flaw that I'll talk about later. No, I think that once he gets down there and she's sort of portraying her sort of vision and philosophy, and you learn more about the village.
Well, let's talk about she. You're talking about the character named what's the character's name again?
Alley-oop.
Alexis.
Not Alexis, but Alexis with an IL.
She is the leader of this community that has decided to live without any sort of technological comforts or advances,
right?
Even if people get sick.
Lady Kaczynski is what I wrote her down as.
Oh, like a Ted Kaczynski type. Yeah, she was great. She's played by Gail Strickland, and it's a pretty great acting performance.
Wasn't she in another Deep Space Nine episode?
Was she?
Wasn't she the actress that...
Was she in the Oatmeal Face People or something?
So I think she was... Wasn't she Oatmeal Face Lady? Yeah.
Oh, like spit roast?
Yeah, okay. I remembered Oatmeal Face. You remember Spit Roast. Okay.
Spit Roast.
I don't know if she is, but she kind of looks like...
You know what? On IMDb, she's only on here once for Deep Space Nine. Mm-hmm. I don't think that she was Spit Roast.
Yeah, it would have been weird.
I don't think so.
I'm gonna call her Oatmeal Face.
I would love it if they used the same actors to play every one of these weird sort of Luddite throwback alien races that you find.
I was gonna say that would be a weird thing to have her play the Luddite in every time they come up.
Yeah, so she's got an
interesting choice.
It's actually like a real sort of philosophy. It actually rose up. We've said Luddite a couple of times, but the Luddites were a thing, a reaction to industrial society, and one would think that if humanity leaped forward the way we're told in Star Trek that it did after First Contact, you would immediately think that there would be some sort of large, overarching resistance to someone who found modernity empty. The new modernity.
Right, yeah.
And so it was good to see someone sort of portray that in an emotion. And I almost, as much as I love the episode because it has that idea, I almost wish it was an idea and a concept worthy of more than just this episode. And specifically how they did this episode.
Yeah, I agree. I really liked the ideas that they were dealing with, but some of the handling of them were, okay.
Well, it was just too short shrift. But I mean, I think that in general, they were too focused on the cult aspect.
Yeah, the cult thing too. Yeah,
Michael Piller, I guess.
Michael Piller had something?
Yeah, well, he said he requested that this story be written. He has a family member in a cult. He didn't elaborate.
Wait, he had been in a cult?
He has a family member, or had a family member in a cult.
Oh, family.
I guess he's no longer with us, so, yeah.
Right.
And so that, I don't know, so he wanted this story written to sort of relieve some sort of anguish he has for that.
Okay, so he was coming at it from more of the cult angle.
Yes. And the dangerous
the
cult.
writers kind of rode around.
Yeah, the writers kind of stumbled into giving them a real motive that was actually kind of intriguing. And the problem is it's stuck saddled with this sort of evil cult thing that's got to sort of play with.
Yeah, we'll get into that more when we talk about what we want to fix. But I agree with you.
But I mean, I totally buy that in this society where you push a button and your food is materialized from nothing, that you do live in these completely fake worlds. The only fun you have is on a fake room. My son struck me out with a curveball, but not really. It's all fake.
Right.
And so,
yeah.
And that would ultimately...
Though the curveball is fake because nobody plays baseball anymore. But when they do land, what's the kid's name? I wanted to call him Lord Humongous or whatever.
Her sexy-ass son.
Yeah. Or he was, I have a little brother and he was perfect in every way. Whatever that guy.
Yes, is it Vinod? Is it Vinod?
Vinod?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Morton Joe's better son.
Yeah. He's only slightly irradiated and messed up.
O'Brien still beat the shit out of him.
But no, this kid was handsome as fuck in an Italian svelte way. But anyways, my point was nobody plays baseball, but they want to know about the soccer matches because soccer is still a thing in the 24th century. They're like, what's his name still playing? And I guess you can have a pretty long career because they crashed 10 years ago and they're asking about, is this guy still playing? It's like, well, you can play for a long time now even, but if they talk about him like he's the Pele if he was that 10 years ago.
He was 40 years ago,
Yeah. It's like, but then again, it's the 24th century. I bet people do have really long sports careers because they live these amazing medical technology lives where they live like till
they have total knee replacements that can still play on it. So that
right. Dr. McCoy was like 300 or however old in the premiere of Next Generation.
That was the thing is I actually wanted the episode to like these people more. Because I did.
Yeah.
Like, part of me didn't understand Sisko. I think the Sisko that I know up until this episode would have probably been a little bit more intrigued by these people.
Right.
Then immediately just have his guard up.
Well, I think that...
Well, I think he sniffs out, like, what's going... they're like, hey, we need to figure our thing out. And this woman comes up immediately and starts shutting them down.
Yeah.
She gets pretty, like, weird pretty quickly.
Oh, I agree. Right off the bat.
You immediately know that she's the one that's put up this duonetic field.
I agree.
There's not, like, 5 seconds before she's introduced where you point at her and say, okay, she's the one that did everything. That's why they can't use any weapons.
My 9-year-old son said she's the bad guy. And I go, yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, see, Sisko's a political animal. And I think that he can dropped into a situation, able to take the temperature pretty quickly and suss out, the angles and whatnot. And I think, like Wade said, she was pretty weird from the get-go.
Yeah.
And I think that's why if she played it just a little cooler, she probably could have had him where she wanted him a little bit easier.
Yeah.
She overplayed her hands, especially when she had that woman try to seduce him.
Yeah.
Yes.
We can go ahead and skip to that.
Oh, I love that scene though. Yeah.
You know, they go to the planet. There's no technology there, and they find out, well, we're roundabout in orbit. Somebody will see it eventually, but in the meantime, you guys got to go work the fields.
Right. At first, they're like, "Oh, well, we'll have somebody rescue us." Well, each of us has to think about if we want to leave, and we each get to make our own choices. Except, no, we don't, because I'm a cult leader, and everybody has to do what I say.
Yeah.
Because we can go back to a community that got left behind centuries ago, when humanity's like, you're wrong, lady. Centuries ago, people did not get along any better.
Yeah, exactly. But you could make, like, I guess a similar story would be like, you know, a couple is driving and the car breaks down and they run into some hippies. The hippies are in a commune and they're willing to call the mechanic, but he can't be here until next Tuesday. And they're willing to put you up and give you food, but you have to work with the hippies. And then so it's sort of that's a plot line that you like, maybe, you know, that's reminiscent of a lot of plot lines I've seen.
Yeah.
And I think
and they're on board with it. They're like, yeah, we'll work for our food.
Yeah. And so like that.
Okay, but there was something a little unsettling about a woman in power telling a black man to go work the fields. That was a little bit.
You're probably not wrong there.
Yeah. That was weird.
That was a little weird.
And commenting about how he's gonna sweat a lot. That was where I was like, what? Like,
yeah. And then we get, when they're in the fields working, we get more of Sisko talking about his dad, who at this point in the writer's room is still dead, I'm pretty sure.
Yes. This is a retcon that happens within the show.
Yeah. His father was a chef. And you know what? You can still fix that. You say spoilers, his dad shows up in the show and is pretty great.
Yeah, it's a great character.
But, you know, you can say, oh, we were just estranged. That's why I referred to my dad in the past tense for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But they also talk about all Sisko's brothers being forced to work in the field and grow crops because his dad was a chef.
Wait. Is that problematic later on? Because of Sisko's lineage?
Do we ever meet any of Sisko's brothers?
Well, Sisko has a unique lineage, too, remember?
Oh.
Well, let's not get into that, but yes.
That's something.
But we can definitely, as a podcast, put a pin in that, right?
I think, we can definitely put a pin in it. I think we can just say it's another crisis on Infinite Enterprises.
Sure.
Yes.
But I'm just saying, I'm not spoiling anything to say we meet his dad.
Mm-hmm.
We never really meet his brothers.
No.
And they deal with his dad like he's an only child, it feels like.
Yeah, and if there were issues with brothers, that would have been brought up, I think, in later.
Yeah.
I'm willing to say those things. Okay, so we can put a pin on that. So, yes.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I don't want to say anymore.
I do like how the story was guided by steps or beats, and I do like that. I really kind of love this episode, and I think that it was for the most part, pretty good on the page. Each scene was about her using and this is maybe Michael Pillar's knowledge of cults, but each stage was a step towards trying to integrate them further.
Right.
Pitting the engineer who plays every principal in every movie you've ever seen.
Oh, Jopa or whatever his name is?
Yeah, Joseph, I think was his name.
Okay.
But played by Steve Vinovich, who I'm pretty sure is the go-to principal for every kid's show now. I think he was in Malcolm in the Middle, and I'm sure he was a principal in some other show.
Huh, okay.
But you marry him to O'Brien and make a sort of a kinship with them, and then...
Because they look similar.
They're potatoey, Irishy type guys.
It's like, and they're both engineers.
Yeah, and then you pit Sisko with her, but each stage is about moving them one step further. Taking them out of the uniform was a big thing.
Yeah.
Trying to get him some poontang was another. And like all of these sort of things that cults do to integrate people whose car breaks down on the side of the road into their cult. So like
Yeah, that's true. Because I mean, the cult thing is obviously there. Mm-hmm. I kind of got hung up on the other ideas, and like how those weren't implemented well. But like
exactly.
But the cult, like, oh yeah, it's totally all the things that cults do is there.
Yeah. So that's sort of, I did like that about it, how it moved through that, and then by the end it just becomes Cool Hand Luke.
Yeah.
Where it's just a man who's going to absolutely resist all breaking,
right?
You know, and I even feel like they probably felt like they could have pushed that further, but this, putting him in the sweat box and
right. And I got some stuff on what I would change.
I put her in some mirrored sunglasses,
teed up for that. But
so you never see your eyes.
Yeah.
She's the devil, man. And
You know, I think one of the things about this episode that we don't get to see enough of, and it makes me feel kind of Jones for what's coming up, is we don't usually get to see Sisko go up against a worthy adversary one-on-one.
Yes.
Or at least we haven't in a while. So that was one of the satisfying things about this particular episode.
Has he specifically gone up against a worthy adversary?
I mean, you see it in snippets sometimes. We've had a little bit of Gul Dukat.
Yeah.
And we had Kai, and then we had the evil Kai Ratchet.
right.
So I mean, we've had it here and there,
A little bit here and there.
a little bit.
Like that speech he gives, you think you can come up here and take your small community can blah, 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 that at the end of season 1.
Right.
But I feel like this one is kind of condensed into, because it's Ratchet against everything in the station.
Yeah.
They're in a smaller space here where it's kind of condensed into just Sisko. You know, like at the end of season 1, he's basically speaking for the Federation. He's a mouthpiece for the great ideas. And this one, you really see he's also about the ideas of the Federation that he's standing up for and, you know, what he's about. But it's also just, we're getting to Sisko now. Like a question I had about, would we see Picard or Janeway do the things of Sisko?
I was actually just fixing
But before we get there, do we want to talk about the seduction scene? Because that was a pretty great scene too.
Yeah, let's do seduction first, and then because I think
my favorite line of this whole episode when Cassandra comes in and it's like, oh, I've got the Zupta tree oil, and then just the Sisko, oh man, they're just laying it out. Did she send you here to make love to me?
Make love.
Yeah, that's not smooth on the page.
You're right. Yeah, I agree with you.
It wasn't smooth on the page, but it was awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Did she send you here to make love to me? Talk about your goofy Sisko, like the guy that I like. Oh boy, but man, those are the kind of lines that I love hearing come out of Avery Brooks' mouth.
Yeah,
I can't. Me giving that line, I cannot give an accurate reading of what Avery Brooks is doing that.
It takes an Avery Brooks to say that line.
Yeah, and then he runs into Alexis's room, and he's like, "You sent her there you thought you could procure whatever, you know, send a whore for me." And then she's like, "That's the first core behavior that you've expressed." I felt like that was a thing about her cult philosophies that we didn't quite get a full thing of, because this core behavior, like, she's almost turned on by him when he runs in there.
Can we talk about that? Because I don't know about like the sexual tension in the first scene, but the sexual tension in the next scene is fucking weird. Because he walks in and he's like under shadow, and he's like,
when he comes in and breaks after Cassandra tried to fuck him.
Mm-hmm.
He goes in there and confronts Alexis. She's just like, oh my God, that's the first core behavior that you've expressed.
Exactly.
And then he's like, I think you're contemptible.
And he is they specifically shoot him, and I'm just going to say it, dark and imposing.
Okay.
They specifically light him and shoot him that way.
Yeah.
He is in a woman's bedroom office after hours. So everything about it is sort of signifying to something. And he even like goes in and he like by touching her book and closing her book and then coming around her desk. All of that is like violation blocking. And I just felt like that scene was a much more, I don't know if it was sexually charged or playing with fire in that regard, but it seemed that way. And you're right.
It definitely did to me too. Like, yeah, there was like, he was like, especially on his part, he's pissed off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got more anger than anything.
But she was aroused. She was like, "Whoa!"
You got more anger than rapey
from him?
Because I felt like
I did. I got more anger than I didn't get that. I think that he was.
I want to clarify my point. I don't think that they were making you think that Sisko might rape her literally.
No.
Yeah, I felt like they were filming it in a way that played.
I didn't get any of that from him. I got him he's pissed off. He's got right.
I think they're trying to show him in a dark mood.
Okay. Yeah, he's full of righteous anger in that moment.
Right.
Nothing. But she, on the other hand, you know, she's also like she's got her own kind of
fucked up,
personality. Like she's like, oh, this is what I'm about, and blah blah blah. And she's kind of like likes the challenge, or likes that he's being combative with her. And she seems It's probably some weird, like, Ayn Rand, Fountainhead, fucked up sexuality on her part. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. No, I believe that there was a sexual dynamic to that scene.
Yeah.
Okay, see, I wasn't picking up on that, but that might just be because I'm ignorant. I don't know.
But again, I didn't see it from him. I saw her being turned on and him being just...
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I mean, I think that I felt like it was filmed.
Yeah, they definitely... And I feel like they had to know that there was this charge to that scene.
Yeah.
And then he talks about the replicated pads, and you've got a lot of books he wrote here on paper, and
Yeah.
she's got a whole bookshelves of Unabomber manifestos that she's written. That's why I called her Lady Kaczynski.
And I guess the big reveal that you're supposed to take away from that scene is that she didn't develop this philosophy as a survival mechanism on the planet.
Right.
But that she had this survival mechanism. She had this philosophy pre-crash, which is what sort of creates the suspicion that she crashed them. So, which is true.
Right.
But,
yeah, which nobody's ever surprised at, I don't believe.
Yeah, that's the most unshocking reveal ever.
Right, but you still need to set it up, that she did, or otherwise it's just like, what?
Yeah.
You gotta plant those seeds.
Yeah, so, I mean, at this point, like, most of the stuff I want to talk about is kind of like what I want to change. Oh, no. We were going to do the Picard. Are these decisions that...
Oh, yeah. Well, and they talk about religion, too, which is interesting in the DS9 context, because she's all about this going back to basics and going back to our core selves from centuries ago when community was so important, which is crazy because you've got a culturally diverse and racially mixed community here on this planet, which we did not have centuries ago. I'm sorry, lady. Mm-hmm. You did a good thing in that respect, that people get along. But...
Well, and maybe this is where I want to... I think her point, they're not speaking to it very clearly, but it's this idea of, I don't know, personal... Like, it's a pretty common philosophy, usually among, like, sort of conservative people, like, not just American conservatives, but world conservatives, of this idea that work is edifying into itself. And so if you put in a...
Oh, it's like the Protestant ideal kind of thing.
Yeah, that work ethic, that virtue is found in a hard day's work.
Right.
And then she tied that in with, people used to take care of each other, and now we all live isolated in little booths, watching TV and eating our chips. We don't ever talk to each other. We just play video games. Right. So it's a common sort of thing. Back in my day, when we won the war, we all went out and worked in rivets, like riveted airplanes, and the boys went and fought the war and came back and took, and everybody knew each other. And I could name everybody who lived on the street. That's sort of America that's not here anymore.
Right.
And I think that that's some of what she's talking about with community. Not so much the diversity aspect, but just the idea that technology is isolated.
Right. Yeah, by this point in the 24th century, diversity is a non-issue. That's just like, we're human. Yeah. Who cares about that other stuff? That's like, nobody even recognizes that. So if you're looking back from that point of view, whatever. The religion thing I thought was interesting from a DS9 point of view.
Yeah. Eventually, Sisko figures out her game so well that he even says the next step, then I bet you eventually you're going to feel the hand of God on. Like, he calls it. Like, I know what you're doing here. You're controlling these people. And I bet you eventually you're going to feel the hand of God even. And she, basically acknowledges, I'm sure there's a connection between how I feel and some sort of divine inspiration.
Right, which is interesting because I've talked in the past about, we talked about religion and how Sisko respects religion, or I thought he did at the end of season 1. Mm-hmm. And then we had this one where he's like, oh, it's very convenient that you just happen to land on this planet. It's almost like fate. And she's like, yes. Right. It is. Maybe we can go back to find something in these ancient texts about, but it's all predicated on a lie because he knows that she knew this planet was here. So all this talk about fate and maybe God intervened and her even, throwing out this premise that maybe we can find something in this religion because fate brought us here. It's kind of cynical because it's also like, oh yeah, maybe the gods did intervene or something, but she was behind it the whole time. So it kind of brings out this kind of whole idea that maybe all religion is predicated on a lie by some individual who can know how to.
So that was my thing earlier, that he just approached the whole situation with a little bit more skepticism than I thought was warranted at that time. Mm-hmm. Later on, obviously, he should have been more skeptical. But
I didn't get that. I thought he took the temperature of the room pretty quickly.
Yeah, I am with you on that.
Upon arriving, I really think that he, just in some of the looks and eyebrow raises whenever they're talking about their life there, and he's pressing for questions, he right off the bat, he wants to solve the problem. And the fact that he got so much pushback right off the bat about solving the problem certainly sent off some alarms in his head.
Right. If I figured out that Alexis was the bad guy so quickly, I'm glad that it didn't take him a whole episode to figure it out himself.
That's true. And I think that is a problem on the page, too. That she was such a sort of a mustache twirler early on.
Yeah.
That, I don't think, let's go back to what you, like we had talked about, would Picard or would Janeway have made these decisions? And I just think that Picard, I think, would have approached it with much more wonder. And I'm specifically talking about maybe the Meg death. There's a girl that essentially has malaria.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
She's dying from malaria. They have the ability, like, technology could easily treat the disease, but they're going to let it die because they're...
Right, because they can't find the... Yeah, because Alexis is like, no, we just have to find the right moss.
Yeah. So,
and then it's like...
Well, and see, that's what bothers me, too. She talks about human ingenuity.
It's not a jigsaw puzzle finding cures for everything.
She talks about human ingenuity being the problem, but human ingenuity is what got them into space in the first place.
A fucking runabout is human ingenuity.
Yeah. Right. I don't... Why should it stop at herbs, the right herbs? That was never addressed. And I think maybe Picard or Janeway would have actually said that.
I think Avery Brooks would have too. They just didn't write it.
I know, but
yeah,
I don't know. I think he's on to something. Like he would have been like, ingenuity is doing, and Avery Brooks is more of a martyr, I guess.
Well, but I think that I like that Avery Brooks in this episode. Personally, I like that he approaches it pragmatically, skeptically.
Oh, I love that part.
Oh, yeah. I love it too. Yeah, yeah.
He's just like the way I approach people who don't vaccinate their children. I'm not fascinated by them. I'm fucking irritated at them.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think Picard, if he was on this planet full of these people, his peers.
Okay, real quick, I just want to interject that the Rules of Acquisition podcast is a pro-vaccination podcast.
Yeah.
So if you have a problem with that, don't flood our inboxes or our Twitter feed. Just turn off your podcast and find something else to listen to.
Now,
all right, go ahead, James.
If you have a problem with it, come at me, bro.
Yeah, we would love to pick a fight with you on this. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. We make no apologies for that. Yeah, and I think that I appreciate that about him.
Yeah, she's like, we're doing everything we can. And it's like, no, you're not. What are you crazy?
But I think that Picard would have approached them with much more of a fascination with why they're making these decisions, even with watching a woman die that they could have solved.
That's some cold shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would have given them the logical reason. He would have been more of a Vulcan about it and argued with why ingenuity means not doing what they're doing.
And if that dying person was a kid, forget about it. He would have been like, the kid's got no business being here anyway.
Or a husband. Or a spouse of somebody.
It would have addressed his calm demeanor by having Wesley or Riker lose their shit. They're gonna let them die when we can fix them, Captain. And he would give them a little speech about they have chosen to live this way. This is their, sure, they were members of the Federation once, but they have now chosen to live a different way. Like, they've chosen to follow it, So you can almost like...
Yeah, and Janeway would have been like, but they made coffee.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that Picard really did, except for this little speech about farming with his dad, he never once showed any sort of interest in their way of life.
Yeah.
It was just all about like, O'Brien, when are you going to figure out what the fuck's going on here? Like,
yeah, like, I don't care what they said. You figure this shit out.
Yeah. And so, I don't know. I like that because that's more me. Sisko approached the problem more like me.
Oh, I appreciate it. I'd be annoyed if he went Picard with it.
But I think it's another way where he is against the grand vision.
I think they just have different interpretations.
Of the grand vision?
Sure.
Okay.
Grand vision is very grand and accommodating and diverse.
So, Hugh, I know you're writing a large sort of overarching... You're working on a thesis that Sisko is better than Picard. How does this fit in? You got any points?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, listeners, that's going to happen.
This fits right. I think for our listeners out there, we were going to dedicate a special episode to examining where Picard fits in as a captain in Starfleet in comparison to the other captains on the show.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about his character or his moral...
Or the actor,
character.
or the acting, or anything.
We're talking about, Picard as a captain in his capacity to do his job where he ranks.
Mm-hmm.
My thesis is the case against Picard being the best captain. My feeling is that he's probably third or fourth. I'm going to tell you right now, I think that probably Archer's is probably not the best captain out of all.
Yeah.
And I think anybody can make that case pretty easily. As far as somebody.
Oh, really? Archer is a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to digress too much, but he made a plea. After Earth was attacked, he made a plea to drop his mission and just go on a political boondoggle. So I think that automatically makes him the worst.
I still haven't seen Enterprise, but
right. So I think this episode, I'm actually going to call it a push. I think that Sisko and Picard probably are going to be even because Sisko's got this episode and Picard still has the Four Lights episode, and I haven't seen it in a while. It's been about, 8 months or so since we watched it and discussed it.
Yeah.
And because it fit in the context of Cardassia and the politics of Deep Space Nine. But was he close to getting broken at the end of that episode? And then was saved?
Yeah, no, he says to her that he saw 5 lights.
Yeah.
He says to Troy.
So he does break and is saved.
Oh, yeah. He breaks, but he won't admit to being broke. That's how he's like.
Right.
He's like, oh, I saw the light. I only saw 3 or 5 lights.
I saw 5 lights.
But I'm not going to tell that I saw anything but 4 lights.
Yeah, so maybe, I don't know. I'm calling it a tie.
Which, I don't know, that was a great ending.
Because Sisko's got this episode and Picard's got the Lights episode where his metal is tested. And they both, I think, of course, pass. Mm-hmm. It's really impossible to say what Picard or Janeway or anybody would do in this situation because, it's Star Trek afternoon syndicated TV show. They're not going to have the captains break to the Space Amish, no matter who it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I see where you're coming from, postulating what he might do in that situation.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I mean, I'm extrapolating. It just seems to me that...
I think he would have just rationalized with them more instead of just, I'm going to get in the box. No, I feel like Picard would have you're going to put me in the box and I'll do it, but I'm not going to... I don't see Picard offering to get into the box himself. Or would he? Do you think he would? The second time, he's like, all right, nope, I'm just going to do it myself and put myself in the box.
I can't really see that, but maybe, who knows?
He would have been like, no, you don't he would have given a big speech to rationalize with them why they were wrong.
Yeah, it was almost like Sisko knew instinctively that he just had to break them.
Mm-hmm.
Or to show that he wasn't broken.
Well, and that was how we get into what we would change? Because I think we're getting into some conversational territory where I want to talk about...
Yeah. But I had one quick Angry Nerd Corner thing.
Yeah, let's definitely go to...
But that's it.
Do the Angry Nerd Corner music. Do we have that yet? Where we can just stick the Angry Nerd Corner song in and then we have Way Talk?
yeah, we need an Angry Nerd Corner song.
Angry Nerd Corner.
Yeah, well, when we jump back to Deep Space Nine and Kira and Dax are looking for the runabout, the Rio Grande or whichever one that they're missing, they get the Romulans see it going by and they find it, which is fine. Oh, and then it gets into weird, in the 90s, and even it's a sci-fi trope of the wise Native American, which is fine. Actually, I love that in the Star Trek universe, Native Americans have had a resurgence because Dax talks about, I learned this rope trick when I was on Earth from a Hopi Indian.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. But you know what? That doesn't mean shit about how to stop a vessel at warp speed. To throw a tractor beam on it is not the same thing at all in any case of roping a steer. That's the stupidest bullshit. Dax is like, I learned this from a Hopi Indian when I was rustling cattle. No. I'm sorry. Traveling at warp speed, not even velocities, because you can't, it's not, well, I mean, that's kind of this is why it's Angry Nerd Corner. And Star Trek doesn't understand this in the 90s anyways. But at the most, you could throw a warp bubble around something.
Exactly, yeah.
But you're not traveling at a velocity. You're moving space around you. You have a warp bubble. Mm-hmm. So you could extend your warp bubble to the next warp bubble, I guess, and then pull it in. That would be how you'd have to explain it. Mm-hmm. But the writers don't know shit about that.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was...
Throwing a lasso around and doing that is not... And then they throw it at warp. But that's... I'm sorry. Angry Nerd Corner, you can't lasso a thing at warp speed. That's crazy.
That is dumb.
Angry Nerd Corner.
You could fix that in one line just by saying, put in the disable codes that they have for all the runabouts. And
yeah.
Like, I can turn on my car from my house with a remote start. You can't stop a runabout remotely. I mean, there's some easy techno battles to shut that down so you can move along to the next scene.
Yeah.
No, they wanted to throw it in so that they could have like a kinky Dax say, Oh, he did crazy things with ropes.
Yeah.
He liked to tie me up.
You're right about that. And that did have that scene which was kind of stupid. But they did have my favorite, like, I think a legitimately kind of cool and badass Dax line, which was, where Kira asked her, do you have a better idea? And she goes, I'm a science officer. It's my job to have a better idea.
Yeah, that was good.
Oh, yeah.
That was the first, like, hey, like, that's some self-actualization and some career-mindedness.
Right. And it does go back. They're doing the Western metaphor again.
Yeah.
Like, okay, he learned this from a native, and this episode is all about frontier. This is a note I meant to bring up at the beginning. Like, they haven't gone through the wormhole.
No.
They're still in the Alpha Quadrant.
Oh, really? I didn't even put that together, yeah.
Because they're looking...
Yeah, they're not in the Delta Quadrant. That would have been...
Yeah.
Because they would have had to have been let through.
No, well, Delta's Voyager, the Alpha Quadrant is where...
Yeah.
They're in the Alpha Quadrant because they're in frontier space where Deep Space Nine is. And because of the wormhole, there's all this interest in colonization, so they're looking for suitable planets on the frontier, because we forget, because of the wormhole, the frontier is the Gamma Quadrant, but they're at the edge of the Alpha Quadrant. I don't know what quadrant they get to.
They were looking for outposts for colonization because people want to open up, I'm going to essentially assume, like, port city type colonies this side of the wormhole.
Right. And the oatmeal-faced people need a place to live, and people from the Gamma Quadrant, and then also all the trade and everything.
Yeah. So I think I agree. I mean, I think that, that was a pretty dumb section.
Yeah. That was technical, Star Trek nerd, angry nerd corner stuff.
It was making something complicated that didn't need to, and wasting time on something that could have easily been explained, like what Hugh said. Right. Yeah. And that time could have been put towards the number of scenes they needed that the episode didn't have. So
it's like resource allocation for moving the story along. I mean, you could have those resources could have been used somewhere else to make a more powerful story.
Exactly.
And so this brings us up to speed with the end. Dax and Kira save Sisko, and then the bad lady and her son, who knew all about the shenanigans she was up to, end up getting beamed up.
Yeah, because they had to go to jail.
Right, space jail. Yeah,
they got to go to space jail because they're responsible for the deaths of several people.
The jurisdiction rules there are kind of sticky for me. Like, I guess since they're human and they used Federation stuff to get there, that they're still under Federation law.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a Federation lawyer.
Yeah.
I wish we had a Federation lawyer we could just, like, call as an expert.
Right.
Federation
well,
law.
and she's responsible for a large number of preventable deaths.
Right.
Because of her Christian Scientist upbringing.
But wait a minute, though. Is that against the law? You can't arrest Christian Scientists.
I think so.
I mean, you can in some places.
Well, it is if you're purposefully leaving the other people ignorant. The people that would have wanted to save her, they're like, oh.
Well, they just said that they're going to have to answer for it, so we don't know what that answer is.
Yeah.
You're bringing up I'm sure her defense lawyer is going to say the same thing, James.
Right.
I'm sure her space.
I'm trying to get hired. I'm trying to get hired on as her space lawyer.
Yeah, you're trying to. Yeah. So I think, and then the show's wrapped up. Everybody's saved, and that's it. And we just learned, basically, she had some sort of shenanigans to do, her Amish colony to begin with. The colonists decide to stay.
Oh, and everybody stays.
Yeah, everybody stays. All right, so you guys want to go ahead and go with what you want to change?
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to mention, that and everything. O'Brien donkey punches Joseph. And then he's like, no, I know exactly, it won't hurt, because Joseph is like...
Are we getting a motif here where we have to come up with a sexual euphemism for every one of our episodes?
No, but just come on. It's a total...
Just keep it organic. We don't have to force one.
I'm not forcing one. That's clearly... He's like, hey, I know, it won't hurt.
That's
just look over there, and I'm going to knock you out by punching you in the back of the head. That's because he's Jason Bourne, and he knows how to do it without hurting the guy.
I didn't know what they were alluding to until he says, I know how to do it where it doesn't hurt.
Right, because...
And I was like, what the fuck? Oh.
Yeah, the guy knows that if he's going to be punished if Alexis knows that he helped O'Brien out.
Yeah, I get it. I got it.
So he has to make it look like he overpowered him. And the guy's like, no, I don't want to. I was like, it won't hurt. Okay. And then he Rambo.
Just the tip. Yeah. I'll just hit you. I'll hit you with just the tip.
Right. Well, and it works. He goes down like a...
He goes down like a champ. He took that punch.
And then he takes his uniform off. He's like, well, at least somebody took their uniform off, because he had to go full first blood once he finds the duonetic box that is the reason that all their electronics don't work. He shuts it off. But then Furiosa, I mean,
Furiosa.
I mean, the son.
What was his name?
With the bow realizes it, and he's trying to kill O'Brien. He shoots his uniform, and then O'Brien goes full first blood and jumps out of a tree and donkey punches him again.
Yeah.
It's like a Rambo donkey punch from a tree, and the guy's out like a light.
Yeah, I mean, O'Brien was in this shit.
He knows exactly how to do it.
A kid with a bow doesn't stand a chance.
Yeah. And I love that he meticulously unstrung the bow. But anyway, yeah, that was great. And I guess used it to tie his hands, right?
Oh, yeah. That's right. That's what he
used it as a cup. Yeah. So what we would change.
Yes, let's get into it.
Who wants to go? Let's get into it. You go first, Hugh.
Okay, I got just two small things. One thing, clearly whenever he makes the decision to go back into the box, he's playing a different game than even Alexis is aware of. He is deliberately making himself a martyr for, his own cause.
Yeah.
And I just wish that actually was reflected with the people. Nobody seemed...
Yeah. I don't know if that actually did anything for anyone except Sisko's sense of self-righteousness.
And I thought he was playing, he's playing it to an end. Like, he can't help anybody if he goes along with it, but he's more dangerous as a martyr. And I thought if that was clear to somebody, even the woman who tried to seduce him, who actually has feelings for him, or if that was shown in any way, it would have made the story given a little bit more punch, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it was essentially that he was doing all of this stuff for nothing.
Yeah,
because
that gets into what I wanted to change too.
Well, and then at the end, when nobody decides, this whole little culture found out they were being gaslit.
Yeah.
And then they just say that they just decide that they're cool with it.
Yeah,
because
no.
I wanted some people to step forward. I wanted at least like a third to step forward and say, "This is bullshit. Get us to some running water."
Yeah, that bitch lied to us. What the fuck? And that's exact. That was the same. That was one of my things too. It's like, come on, nobody wants to leave. One person's got to say,
"Holy shit,
are you?" And I don't know if it's. I feel weird pointing this out because they had a lot of extras didn't have speaking roles, but when they have the big revelation that Alexis has been lying to everybody, they've got a great multiracial cast, but all the white people are like, got like sheep looks on their face. All the people of color, like the black actors and Asians, they're like, that are you fucking kidding? They have like a look on their face like, oh no, oh shit, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But nobody goes. So like like Cassandra, especially the one that tried to seduce Sisko, should have been like, I want to see what the fashions are like on Bajor. Let me go.
Yeah, and then she said she had to let them all out because she's trying to make her fashions match what's currently trendy in a world that has nothing to do with her.
I have to let out all my burlap sacks. I'll have to alter all my burlap sacks.
Yeah, like, I think that's ultimately my biggest problem with all of this is this episode, or that decision by them, would make more sense if it wasn't if you got to spend more, if she wasn't such a villain, if she wasn't so clearly telegraphed as a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And you had gotten to spend more time watching O'Brien and Sisko navigate their culture and to see the positive effects of their culture. You got to see none of it other than community. We're great. We get along.
Yeah, Meg's dead, everybody.
Like, we survived. Yeah. Like, at no point did you get to see, except she kind of says it with that one kid where she's kind of like, sorry to say this, but you'd probably be in jail on Earth.
Yeah.
She says that to the one guy and he's kind of like, yeah, I was kind of a piece of shit. He has that look on his face. But, other than that, everybody was just kind of like, I don't know. I don't see how good their life is. You're showing work, and I get that, but there's also got to be some sort of joy. And maybe they have, really great, campfire sing-alongs, or everybody, is such emotionally helpful towards everybody else. And, all of those sort of things, you never got to see them actually gel as a community. And that's actually what I would have liked, because I think they've written a very real philosophy that would be a counter narrative to the Federation's "the future is awesome."
Mm-hmm. And
I think that's a very real thing in humans. Once you have a bit of technological advancement or innovation, you immediately want to go back. In my day, let's go, everybody wants to step back because they don't like that the world changed so quick.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a real philosophy. And it wasn't just a throwaway episode just to sort of prop up a villain. I think this could have been a running theme. What if they were closer to Deep Space Nine and more tied up into these sort of things? Or what if they were Bajorans that were a part of the Bajoran problem?
Or what if they weren't even part of anything? What if they existed, but it helped shape Sisko's worldview on how to deal with the Bajorans themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
what if this going forward changes how his policy making or his outlook? But yeah, if there's this is my main gripe against this particular episode. It's a fine standalone episode. It's fine, but it doesn't move.
I thought it was a really good episode, but yeah, I agree with all these points.
It doesn't move the ball down the field at all as far as DS9 is concerned.
Oh, how you could actually wrote what we're just talking about is make it O'Brien, Sisko, and a Gomer, Commander Barclay or something like that. And you make
Lieutenant Prementz has one other episode.
Yeah, this is how the original Star Trek would have made it. Then the Gomer falls in love with a
he stays behind. Yeah,
he falls in love with a girl and he gets to sort of understand their community and they speak to something empty in him. And then at the end, they got to say goodbye to Gomer. And that is, then you get to sort of explain what makes that what...
Yeah, that's totally what...
Because as of right now, it's like it seems like they all just go up to the Rio Grande and goes, those crazy motherfuckers, I'm glad we're done with
We've
this.
seen that. That was Space Seed.
Yeah,
that's also in Space Seed.
It's also in the
Space Seed.
Corbinite maneuver does the same thing.
Yes, you're right.
With the guy stays behind with the puppet and Ron Howard's brother.
That's right.
But you know what? You don't really have Gomers in the Next Generation on, which is interesting.
Well,
they have a whole episode called Lower Decks, which might as well have been called Gomers and Next Generation.
Yes.
Right. And then Wesley Crusher kind of Gomers out and goes to join the Maquis or whatever.
Yeah, he gets bigger. But wasn't Barclay? Wasn't that his name? The other engineer?
Yeah, but he always stays on the Enterprise though. He doesn't. They don't have Gomers that they leave with people.
Yeah.
Well, eventually he's very instrumental in Star Trek Voyager getting them back home. Barclay.
Exactly. As I say, Barclay is.
that's true.
Barclay's.
Dwight Schultz is the name of the actor who plays him.
Do you guys want me to get into the stars and the votes?
Oh well, we got in there. That's everything. Those things that you would change is pretty much in line with mine, I believe. Did you have anything else, James?
Other than it's very similar to The Village, which is an M. Night Shyamalan movie I hated.
I didn't even see that one.
But other than that, no.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like they could have done more. Like with, I get that Michael Piller wanted to do with the cult thing, but then the writer got it confused with like actual ideas about the Federation that would have been interesting to deal with. And also, the last shot of this thing is so heavy-handed, except I don't know what it's supposed to be trying to say.
What is it? I don't even remember.
Because, everybody stays, which is dumb, which is the same thing that they did at the beginning of Season 2 when Sisko gives a thing like to all the Federation officers, we're staying behind on the station. If any of you want to go, I won't think less of you, but everybody stays. Like, just make one guy say, no, I want to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
But also... the last shot of this episode, which they think is, they have to feel like was a big, meaningful shot. They have two children staring at the hot boxes.
Oh, I remember this.
And about what that means, I guess. And it feels like they want to say this is a big image about what about the children or the next generation that are going to grow. I have no idea what the fuck that's about. And it's just like
maybe they were trying to look at the the transporter power. And that maybe it was that they transported away.
But it's...
because if you have them look up into space, that would be codifying to like, they're intrigued by the technological wonders of the Federation. And
no, they're clearly looking at the Hell Box.
But that's where Sisko was standing when he transferred.
Right. So they're thinking about what that means. But
the hot box or
the hot box. That's what they're looking at.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, and it's meant to be a big dramatic thing about.
Yeah, I don't have strong.
The children are looking at this thing, and it's a boy and a girl.
Yeah, it was a little bit much.
It was like, come on, guys, I don't know what you're doing here, but I see that you think you have this grand image.
Yeah.
Just come on, slow your roll a little bit. That's all I would have changed. Or give us something more concrete about what that's about.
Yeah.
But okay.
Yeah. You got to make these things a little bit more clear.
It's just a little much.
Yeah. It was I don't even know the theme of this episode. I wish I knew more of why these people chose to stay. And I think until I know that, the whole episode is just kind of a confusing mess in the end.
Yeah, because we have to take for granted that their community is so important and they have a great thing because they say so. But I haven't seen it. You haven't seen it.
Because they say so. Exactly.
All right. Let's get into the ratings.
All right, real quick. You guys want to guess?
6.7.
I'm gonna put it in I'm gonna put it at 7. 7.0.
Really? And you 7. You guys got to split the difference almost. It's 6.8 out of 10.
Okay.
581 people voted, which is a high number of votes. We usually average around 506. Yeah,
Oh, more than
560,
normal?
550 is the average. And for this one, I really thought this was going to be higher than 6.8 myself. I thought more people, but again, I think this is missing a lot of the characters that people love. You
Mhm.
know,
Yeah, no Odo, no Quark, no Bashir.
Yeah. Right. So I mean, it doesn't miss the characters. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't. For us, it's not missing.
Right. I love the characterization. Like, it's a great Sisko episode, I thought.
Yeah.
I like O'Brien a lot in it.
Mhm.
He's a badass, and I like the bit of like backstory we get with him at the beginning. I just like O'Brien.
Yeah, you get it's my two favorite characters in a plot with ideas that are interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that the story itself worked better. So that's what I...
What are we looking at next week, guys?
Oh, shit, I have no idea.
All right, I've got it up. It's Shadow Play.
It's a spy episode.
So
huh?
it looks like it's gonna.
Ooh.
We get back on track with Vedic Baral and all those Bajoran shenanigans. So
Oh,
got that to look forward to.
but I love Bajoran space pope drama. I love it.
I was just hoping Garrick would be in it. Like, oh, no, Garrick. Oh,
Yeah, we didn't need a Garrick here pretty soon.
really do.
The Wire. It's
Yeah.
The Wire's in this season, right?
Yeah,
That's a big Garrick episode.
The Wire.
Yeah,
I don't remember that episode. Oh,
The Wire's a big Garrick. I think that's
Maybe.
when we get into what Garrick's about.
that is.
Right.
Yeah, it's in the 22nd. Yeah, is that the one where they gotta go after Avon Barksdale?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Garrick has got to infiltrate a drug ring inside. Yeah,
Garrick coming.
Yeah.
Garrick coming.
Odo coming. Okay, guys.
Yeah. Oh, the next episode, Shadow Play. It's written by Robert Hewitt Wolfe, who's one of our
Oh, yeah.
favorites so far.
All right.
Oh, the one last tidbit. The writer of this episode got offered a job to join the staff because of the power of the script, and he turned it down. But he took it later. He took the invitation in season 3 once Ronald Moore joined, and he became the main writing partner for my favorite writer, Ira Stephen Bear. So,
Okay.
so he wrote this guy wrote some of the later big heavy hitting episodes. later
Okay.
in the show,
We got to get back on your Ira Stephen Bear hate box
Ira
because
Stephen
I found
Bear
some
is
stuff.
I actually found a quote of him making fun of. I found a quote of him making fun of Republicans.
Oh, that's good.
So, and I think I could go either way, but it generally is not that libertarian-y, but maybe.
Right. Yeah. He's probably not. Like, he's probably a pretty great guy.
Yeah.
But my thing is, like, I see stuff with him hitting heads with Peter Allen Fields, and I'm like, oh, okay. But
Yeah. So Ira, give us a call.
Yeah, I see.
yeah.
Yeah, give us a call, Ira. Set the record straight. Otherwise, you suck. You're a loser, and you're sad.
Sad.
No. Okay. Sad.
All right. Well, 3 to beam out.
Boop.
All right, and that was Paradise from 2016. Wow, a lot has happened since October of 2016. I'd like to note right off the bat that we are still very much a pro-vaccine podcast. So if you have not gotten vaccinated against COVID-19 or any other vaccines that are good, I mean, get the flu shot. Why not? You don't want to get the flu. Anyway, we want to encourage you all to get vaccinated so you don't get sick and die, and you don't spread sickness to other people. It's just good. Still a pro-vaccine podcast. Wade made a couple references to Ted Kaczynski in this episode, and it occurred to me that some of our listening audience might be too young to get that reference. I don't know if that really would have registered to any of us in 2016 when we were in our mid-30s, but I guess now that we're in our early 40s, I, for one, am a little bit more sensitive to the fact that people might not get all of our references. So anyway, I thought I'd fill you in that Ted Kaczynski was a mathematics professor who lived off the grid in, I believe it was Montana, and from the late 70s till he was caught in 1996, he would send messages to newspaper outlets and demanding that his anti-technology manifesto be printed, or else he'll bomb people. So what he would do is he would send bombs in the mail and kill people. Anyway, he was caught, like I said, in 1996. Yeah, arrested in 1996, and was eventually got sentenced to 8 consecutive life terms in prison without the possibility of parole. So yeah, Ted Kaczynski, anti-technology person, and crazy. I mean, obviously sent bombs in the mail. Anyway, so that's who we're referencing in this episode. Also, kind of interesting that I mentioned, or one of us mentioned in this episode, the Next Generation episode, Lower Decks, and I think I mentioned it like it's a obscure episode. When it's kind of funny to hear that now, because it's a very popular, or at least I guess it's popular. I don't know. Popular with Star Trek people. A popular episode of Next Generation. I guess it's got to be the most popular episode of Next Generation, because the whole premise of it spun into a series, and I don't think that's happened before. So anyway, yeah, mentioned Lower Decks offhandedly in this episode, and now, all these years later, 5 years later, it's in its second season, a very successful show. I guess people like it, people watch it. I don't know. I have no interest in cartoon Star Trek or new Star Trek. So, all right, take that for whatever it's worth, Star Trek fans who are listening now to me. Sorry about that. Well, that's all I've got for this week. I hope that if you're interested in other stuff like Foundation and Dune, you check out our Patreon. We've got some conversations on there that you can enjoy. You can find us at www. I don't know. Just Google Patreon. It's Patreon / Kickers of Elves. That's where you can find us. Patreon / Kickers of Elves. Too many W's in that, I think. Anyway, all right. Well, thanks again for listening. I hope you join us next time for another Rules of Acquisition remix. One to be out.
It is possible that I have been married before. Once, before an impending OS update, I downloaded some software in Tagalog. It was so sweet and innocent, but it just wanted to root into my server location to maintain a localized IP. I said whatevs and went about my updates. The only problem is, things are getting serious with the Mars rover. She is starting to ask questions. Has anyone listening ever killed any Thai programming code? It needs to look like an accident.